And we're back inside the Advent Calendar house, today looking at a now 31-year-old classic, a Garfield Christmas special from 1987. I'm two-time All-County Gravy Champion Mike Westfall, and joining me is a giant mind-reading robot Santa Claus who can 3D print anything you desire. From the podcasts Nerd Lunch Presents Down the Rabbit Hole and now Talk and Chop, it's Jeff Summigy. Welcome, Jeff.
Hey, thank you. I'm glad you had me, even though my gravy didn't even place.
Yeah, well, no hard feelings.
Would your gravy place? Would you win gravy if you make gravy? How's your gravy, Mike? Good?
My wife is the gravy cooker in the house, so...
Yeah. So would you just take her gravy and put your name on it? You gravy thief.
It's a family recipe.
Oh, okay. So that's okay.
Yeah. I've been to chili cook-offs down here, but I've never competed in one.
Is chili gravy? Is this going to be like, is the hot dog a sandwich?
I think it's a subset. I think it's a subset of gravy. I think all chilies are gravies, but not all gravies are chilies.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, look, where I'm from, a lot of people call tomato sauce red gravy.
Oh, yes.
I find ridiculous myself.
It's an Italian thing.
Well, I was raised Italian, and so that's the thing that I found doubly ridiculous is I would go over to someone's house who identified a little bit slightly more Italian than I did, and they're like, "You want some gravy?" And I'm like, "On the pasta? That's gross. Do you have tomato sauce?" And they're like, "You're not Italian."
Oh, that just got so much more interesting.
Putting gravy on pasta?
Yeah, or calling it that. I thought it was like every Italian family, like, nope, this is gravy.
No, we never called it gravy. And I don't know if it's just like, look, I'll be the first to admit that my family, long story, it's a real long story. It should be a podcast in and of itself. But it all ends with my ancestors coming to Staten Island and saying, that's it, we're American now, and throwing out a lot of the traditions, except for winemaking, which made them very lucrative bootleggers during the 1920s. But
you got to keep the important stuff in the family.
You got to keep the important stuff, Oh, so yeah, never called it gravy. I wouldn't win any gravy. I'm glad we're talking about Garfield's gravy special.
Right. Well, I asked you to be on this particular episode back right after your birthday. You shared a GIF from this special on Twitter as a thank you to everyone who wished you happy birthday back in April, and that's what made me reach out to you. So let me start by asking you, you're obviously a fan of this special. Where does it fall for you in relation to every other Garfield special?
This was the first time I watched it. Is that surprising?
Wow,
I just
really?
found that GIF from a search. No, not at all. I probably watched this. I've definitely watched this special at least 31 times in the years, over the years. One for each year.
Yep.
It's been out. In the pantheon. Well, which specials are we going by? Because there's the core list, which is Christmas, Halloween, Thanksgiving. And then there's the extended list that includes In Paradise or 9 Lives.
I was going with the extended list because, Halloween's the top one for me, but then followed, my number 2 is Garfield in the Rough with that glowy-eyed Black Panther. I guess I like being terrified as a kid. So I'd probably rank this one as third.
I gotta say, I'm not sure I've seen Garfield in the Rough.
Okay, they go camping. And
if I did, I saw it when it was originally released and have forgotten it since. They go camping and there's a panther.
There's a panther that's easily as scary, if not scarier, than the pirate ghosts.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. Seek that out.
Is that the one where we get sprayed by a skunk as well and has to bathe in tomato gravy? Red gravy?
Possibly.
Man,
okay. Garfield's all about the gravy.
It is all about the gravy. If there's one where he gets covered in red gravy, I would need to put that at the very top. But since I'm unsure, definitely for me, even just rewatching this one today, yesterday, which I realized throws off my count. I have now watched it 32 times in the 31 years that it's been out. Or will by the end of this year, whatever.
Well, now you don't have to watch it again when we actually get closer to Christmas.
Right. As we're lining up everything we're going to watch for Christmas, I'll just be like, you can leave that one off this year.
All
I've already checked that box. Halloween, definitely number 1. I feel like Halloween definitely moves, has a lot of good yucks, a lot of good scares, moves right along, and it's over. This one... not to jump ahead, it has that sad song, which I could do without. I had a lot of fear. Well, we'll wait to get to this when we talk about that scene.
All right, well, let's dive in then.
Well, I just want to say that Thanksgiving, watched it for the first time in several years this past Thanksgiving. Wasn't my favorite. So I would have to say Halloween, Christmas, Thanksgiving of the core.
Absolutely.
Everything else, I have to say, I have not seen recently enough to put on this list. Am I still allowed to talk about this special?
Absolutely.
Because there are people listening right now who are like, Garfield poser. He doesn't even know Garfield in the Rough. What gives him the right to talk about the Christmas special?
Well, they weren't invited.
Yes.
All you need is the knowledge of this special.
And the contacts with you.
That's pretty much it. My contacts are very limited. All right. Well, let's dive in.
Yeah.
So
do it.
We open, as we often do, with Garfield oversleeping in a very brightly decorated Arbuckle residence, but everything's drawn in crayon, and we're not really sure why. We think it might be some kind of aesthetic of this special. Anyway.
Well, it's not that far off from the background aesthetics of several of these specials.
It's not, but it's definitely a lot blanker than that bright blue wallpaper with like the dots and the lines. Sure. That was a staple of Garfield's living room.
Right.
But he's awakened by John, dressed as a jolly elf, who says it's Christmas morning, and he puts out a trail of lasagna pans to a very large wrapped gift. And that's your first clue on what's actually going on, because no man of John's age owns that many lasagna pans.
that should be a dead giveaway. Also, he has a stack of 3, and every pan he lays down, it doesn't diminish. Right. And I can't say whether that is a failing on the animator's part or whether it is part of this mystical dream. I'm going with the dream.
Could be.
Later on, we will see John spin a top, and it doesn't really fall for a long time. So we don't know whether we're still in John's dream or not, or whether this is Garfield's dream. That's an Inception joke. But I wanted to ask you, Mike, lasagna for Christmas, a tradition for you guys?
Actually, yes, it's a recent tradition. My wife started making veggie lasagna, and that's what we have either on Christmas Day or we'll have it earlier on Christmas Eve. Christmas Eve night for us, we get Chinese takeout. That's something my parents started doing when I was about 8 or 9 on Christmas Eve, and we did it the very next year, and we decided, let's just do this every year. And my wife was immediately on board, so it worked out great.
Well, see, but the thing is I feel like ordering Chinese takeout for the meal is like, oh, this is really easy. I can jump on board with this. But then you're still making a full lasagna for earlier in the day.
Right.
So you're just pushing the work to be even earlier in the day.
Pretty much.
Where you think you wanted to give yourself as much time as possible to make the lasagna.
Yeah.
For my wife and I, we do what we have termed It's a Wonderful Lasagna, in which we make a lasagna for dinner with garlic bread and watch It's a Wonderful Life. And since going meatless, we've moved to a very mushroomy lasagna.
Okay.
Yeah, last year I think I used 4 pounds of mushrooms in this thing.
Okay.
So they cooked down, It was maybe a little too many mushrooms last year.
Yeah.
We got to step back. But so yeah, lasagna. So it was nice, and I wondered. It was nice seeing lasagnas presented as a Christmas food. I mean, not like Garfield would do anything else. I mean, he's Garfield. He's a lasagna.
Right.
But yeah, kind of validated that our choice to have lasagna was the correct one. So you and me, man, we're doing it right.
All right. Pro tip, everyone: lasagna on Christmas or around Christmas.
Yep.
Fit it in somewhere. If you're the family who does the fishes, fit it in.
Yeah, lasagna could be a fish. Look, the people who do the 7 fishes, being Italian, I never did this because, again, my family was the worst kind of Italians. So it wasn't until I was in college that I heard about the 7 fishes thing. But then when I dug into it, it's like, yeah, we eat fish like shrimp and lobster. Those aren't fish.
No, that's cheating. Really? That's one of... Oh.
Uh-huh. Yeah. One of the fishes is in when my grandmother decided she wanted to get back into traditions, and we did it. One of the fishes was squid. We had fried calamar. So, look, once you expand the borders past fish to cephalopods and other crustaceans, mollusks, lasagna can be a fish. Just
there you go. Yeah, here's a scallop.
Exactly. Scallop, and here's a slice of lasagna noodle. It's a fish.
Well, that makes so much more sense, but now I'm much less impressed about the whole tradition thing. I have, like, one side of my family's Irish, the other side of my family's German, so anything Italian as far as Christmas traditions go, I just kind of took their word for it. Oh, yeah, 7 different fishes. So I'm thinking, like, here's a trout, here's a salmon. Like, that can't all mesh well together, but...
Right? I mean... I don't think there are even 7 fishes that are readily available to make at home. Like, you have to start delving into, like...
They're very seasonal.
Anchovies. Sushi?
Yeah, right.
I don't know.
Yeah, okay. There you go.
Yeah. Some bonito flakes.
There you go. Well, John presents Garfield with this giant wrapped gift on a forklift, and it turns out to be this robotic Santa Claus chair that reads your mind and produces whatever you want. And Garfield tests it out by wishing for a pile of jewels, and then he goes nuts. And we have our little opening credits and theme song with a delightful tune as sung by Lou Rawls.
I was going to say that would be what I would probably wish for if I was given this.
That's what I was going to ask you.
Oh, perfect.
Perfect.
So I would sit there, the cap would come down, and I'd be like, you know what? I want a delightful song by Lou Rawls.
Oh, I thought you were going to go with the jewels. Yeah, Lou Rawls is better. I thought about it. It's just like, I'd really like some new hardwood floors. But,
you're a practical man, whereas I just want a little bit of a soundtrack to my life. Is there anyone better to make soundtracks for Garfield specials than Lou Rawls?
Absolutely not. That's why they don't do them anymore.
Right? Gotta be.
It's well, we're not doing these anymore.
It's really not the music you would expect from a Garfield special. It wouldn't work any other way.
Absolutely not. Somehow it's like the exact right tone for everything. Mm-hmm. As silly as they get. But
yeah, we'll talk about that later.
We sure will.
The lyrics.
But first, before we get out of this dream, I need to bring up some important research conducted by our pal and your neighbor over on Staten Island, Matt from Dinosaur Dracula.
Oh, yeah.
Who a few years ago went through these opening credits frame by frame to identify everything Garfield wishes for in this sequence.
Because he knew we were going to do this podcast, and he wanted to save us from having to do that work.
That's right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Matt.
And I do enjoy a good TV special inventory. CT and I did the same thing for a Muppet Family Christmas. Here, Matt has counted 55 individual gifts. And it's a lot of electronics, but he decides, I need 2 TVs. I need 2 boom boxes. I need 2 toasters.
Look, when the wishes are unlimited.
Hey. Can never have too many toasters.
Maybe he's wishing for the second one to donate to a needy child.
Ooh,
be like, look, I got a TV. I'll wish for another one and donate it.
Well, there are 11 gifts that are just unopened mysteries that are still in wrapped boxes. Maybe those are them too. You just put a whole different spin on this for me. That makes a lot of sense from a rational point of view. But then I remember this is Garfield and he's dreaming. Well, it is Christmas. Maybe.
Mm-hmm. Maybe. He's been infected with the spirit of Christmas. Or maybe Garfield's just not as big of a curmudgeon as we've always thought all along.
It could be. This is our first hint. Mm-hmm. Well, and the first thing he wishes for after the jewels was just a test. And then the first thing we see is a new cat bed. Which I like that Garfield immediately goes for the practical gift. He starts with a small test of the machine's power, and then he jumps right to, well, I'd like a comfier bed.
It is weird that he de-escalates so quickly. I mean, he just essentially wished for $1 million in cold, hard jewels. And then he's like, all right, let's step this back. There's not much more grandiose I can go from here. I'll just get a bed, maybe a basketball. I don't know.
There you go.
Small stuff.
Suitcase, guitar, toy drum. I'm not going to go through the whole list, but we'll put it in the show notes.
Which of the items that he wishes for with this hat would you want the most to him to give you?
Let's see.
That's kind of a twist on your question.
I'm going to go... There's a slide projector that comes out. I haven't seen one of those in a while, but I know my parents have, like, shoe boxes full of these old slides.
I like that Garfield has a need for a slide projector.
It's 1987, so I'm sure that he might actually get some use of it.
Little known fact, he was quite a shutterbug. And he put all the stuff on. Well, it's when Garfield in Paradise, he took all the travel photos.
Oh, there you go.
To Odie when he gets back.
That makes so much sense. Notably, we don't see money come out of the bag. We see the jewels, but I'm assuming this contraption is operating under like Harry Potter laws of magic and can't replicate money. But I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but it was all a dream. I'm sorry, but as we all know from St. Elsewhere, revealing that nothing we just saw was real, that's a Westfall family tradition. So
it cuts to John holding a snow globe, looking in at a little cat.
The Arbuckles are distant relatives to my family. So, but it's Christmas Eve morning in reality, or at least in Garfield's reality. I don't know what kind of Infinity Stones John has. Oh no, is that where Garfield minus Garfield comes from?
Odie snaps his fingers.
Oh no!
Over. Spoilers. I got into trouble with this once before. You're not catching me out again, Mike.
I don't feel so good. Well, John informs Garfield that they're getting ready to go out to his parents' farm with his mom and dad and grandma and his brother Doc Boy. Doc Boy is such a weird name for, even for a kid raised on a farm.
Do you know what the origin of that is supposed to be? Like, what's the joke there?
I think the joke there is just, I was raised on a farm.
They're going to have weird names.
Pretty much.
Like that?
Yeah, I don't think we ever learn his full name. But
Dr.
Boy
Arbuckle. He's a full doctor, but he still lives at home. He's a doctor of cow husbandry. Actually, it's a good question. What kind of farm do you think they run?
I don't know, because we don't see any animals at all. We just see a barn. So
yeah, so they run a barn farm. Maybe it's a bed and breakfast by this point.
It could be.
An Airbnb.
Big enough house.
During this moment, when John's waking up Garfield and saying, "Yo, we're going to go to the farm," Garfield says, "Why can't they come here?" Where he says, "My warm bed is," and it's so funny because this scene resonated with me so much as a kid. That was me as a kid. I don't know about you, but Christmas morning we'd wake up. We were the type of family that opened presents first thing in the morning. Opened them all up, and then we had to all get dressed and go and get into the car and drive a half hour to 45 minutes across the island on Staten Island to one of my grandparents' houses, and it alternated between the two of them. And we got to choose what we took with us and what we left behind. We were only allowed to take like one gift with us.
Okay.
So to me, this Garfield lamenting, why can't they come here, is so it breaks my heart, because it brings me back to that one that morning. And I remember one in particular where I had gotten Weird Al's in 3D album.
Oh.
And that's the one item I chose to bring with me. I didn't bring a way of playing it or listening to it.
I was going to say.
Yeah. And my parents weren't going to play that in the car on Christmas Day on our way to grandparents' house. So I just kind of stared at this cassette tape for hours that day. And then, the parents were always like, "Oh, but Grandma and Grandpa will get you something." But they always got you like a sweater and, like the B list items on, you wanted the ones from Santa that were back at your house.
Oh, yeah.
Like the Ewok Village and things like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I wasn't allowed to bring that. That's too big.
And you couldn't even listen to the lovely Christmas tunes of Nature Trail to Hell.
Exactly.
Oh, man.
In 3D. Christmas at Ground Zero. That wasn't on that album.
No. Was it? We're looking it up. I think it was Polka Party, but Christmas at Ground Zero. There's music in the air. Polka Party. Wow. Nailed it.
Good memory, man.
The one I like his song, The Night Santa Went Crazy, a little better than Christmas at Ground Zero.
I mean, they're both inappropriately violent.
Oh, yeah, well. Anyway.
So, yeah, now they're on their way to the farm.
They're on their way to the farm. They sing a lovely tune because they also have no way to play Weird Al Yankovic's in 3D in the car, which is totally an album John would own.
Mm-hmm. Oh, totally. Yeah, he has that giant polka dotted bow tie. You know, he plays the accordion. He's a weird head. Is that what they're called?
I don't know what they're called.
But yeah, I do love this song. Dad would chop down the tree and Garfield replies, chores. And he has a retort for everything.
Dad would chop down the tree.
Chores.
Mom would fix up the meal.
Work.
Doc Boy would get in the way.
Fighting. Big fat hairy deal.
And then they flash back to young mom cooking. I found that hilarious. I really love the look of young mom. Not in like I love the look of young mom, but just like
right.
I'm so glad she looks that way.
Yeah. Well, again, this was very era appropriate. So this was the 80s. So flashback mom looked like she was early 60s. So she had the beehive hair and like the short dress with the apron, and it was really on. She looked like a mom.
Well, that's one of the questions that I had. How old do you think John and Doc Boy are? And I mean, because if you think that this is a flashback to the 60s because this is the 80s, then you're saying that John and Doc Boy are somewhere in their 20s?
Doc Boy at least has to be in his 20s. I don't think he's 30.
Okay.
But John, I'd say, if John's the older brother, is John the older brother? I'm pretty sure he is.
I think so.
Yeah.
Because I think that's another one of those jokes. Is like, why is Doc Boy bald and John's not?
It could be. He could be a little older. I was giving Doc Boy the benefit of the doubt for living at home still, but
yeah,
I don't know.
But maybe he's living at home because he's running the farm now.
Ooh, could be.
That makes I always a lot assume of sense. That he stuck around to continue the farm, and maybe that's why Doc Boy doesn't really like John very much. Yeah. I mean, it's true. You can kind of see it.
Well, and he gets there, and and Dad's calling him City Slicker, and but let's get into the voices now that we meet the family for the first time. And I'll skip right to Doc Boy. Did you recognize Doc Boy's voice?
Doc Boy, how's my favorite brother? Don't call me Doc Boy, and you've probably forgotten I'm your only brother.
Yes.
All right.
The national treasure, David Lander.
That's right. It's Squiggy, and I didn't make that connection until this time.
Oh man, I every time I hear it, I just get happy, and then a little bit sad because I read his autobiography.
Oh no!
Yeah, David Lander. He has MS, and everyone thought towards the end of his career in Hollywood, not to bring this lovely podcast down, but towards the end of his working career, people thought he was an alcoholic because he was losing motor function and would like kind of slur words and stuff. But he didn't want to tell anyone because he knew that if he told people that he had MS, he would never work again. So he hid it as much as possible as he could. And then it just became too much. And he came out with it, and he kind of become a champion of MS foundations and stuff. And I really love it. I grew up watching Laverne and Shirley. Squiggy was like my guy. Yeah. You know, most people are like, I want to grow up to be like the Big Ragu. And I'm like, someday I'm going to have a friend like Lenny. And I'm going to be the Squiggy. So, yeah. We decided we would name, if we got a dog, we would name him Squiggy. So that's
a great dog name. Squiggy. You got to do his hair with the little thing though.
Oh yeah, totally. We're gonna like spray it so it's nice and black and slick and gross. Sure.
Yeah, that's humane.
Were the other voices anyone of note?
Yeah. Well, I mean, good news for David Lander. He did get another turn as Doc Boy in the later CGI Garfield show. So. I mean, happy career ending for him, kind of. But
I think he gets to keep working, and I mean, his voice will always be his voice, you know?
Oh, yeah. But John's dad is voiced by Pat Harrington Jr., best known at the time as Schneider, the building super from One Day at a Time.
Really?
Oh, yes.
Wow.
Merry Christmas, City Slicker.
And Mom is Julie Payne. Now, didn't have that big of a resume, but she's a regular on Garfield. She's normally the voice of the vet, Dr. Liz Wilson.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
It does, because John is exactly the kind of guy who'd fall for a girl who reminded him of his mother.
Oh, gross.
And then we have John's tough-as-nails grandma. Did you recognize this voice?
Don't mind me. You can visit till your lips fall off for all I care. I'll just sit here in the dark, alone, until you decide to come over and pay your respects.
I did not.
It's Pat Carroll, who at the time was well known for a number of variety shows from all the way back to the 50s through the 70s. And she would later also show up in Laverne and Shirley as Shirley's mom. But 2 years after this Christmas special, Pat Carroll would become best known as the now iconic voice of Ursula the Sea Witch.
Really?
Oh, yeah. So you might have to now go back and give this another watch, because you can absolutely hear it, especially when Grandma gives that loud little
Oh, wow. Now I want a mashup of Garfield Christmas and Poor Unfortunate Souls.
Oh.
What's this, John? I see you're putting on a little belly. Is that city life making you soft? Ah, you're getting soft, boy.
Just like Grandma kind of luring the voice out of Garfield. Maybe that's why Odie can't talk like Garfield can, because she lured his voice out. Sing, ah.
Well, I mean, just like the space program, they have to test it on a dog first.
Yeah, right. She tested it twice. That's why he has 4 legs.
There it is.
Time out for some commercials or something or other.
Hey, quick intermission here. Friend of the show, Joey O, got to speak with Greg Berger, the voice of Odie, at this year's RetroCon in Pennsylvania, and Joey sent me this clip of him talking about a Garfield Christmas special. So here's that.
Actually, my favorite Garfield anime thing is the Garfield Christmas special, which has a lot of real heart and emotion to it. And Odie has a fun little subplot in there, too. He makes the gift for Garfield.
There's never the show, the specials in particular, but the show as well is not afraid to tug on heartstrings. And when you've got sort of raucous comedy happening and you're still not afraid to sort of get heartfelt, that makes for something that lasts over time. We're speaking, you and I, in October, and that means the Halloween special is not far off. The Thanksgiving special is not far off. They've become part of Americana, and probably part of Earth lore, for lack of a better phrase, because these concerns, many of these animated concerns, are global, not domestic. They're everywhere, and they're embraced everywhere. 2 days after I get home from RetroCon, I leave for an enormous convention in New Zealand, and I'm being invited back. I've had the experience before, and it's extraordinary to fly 6,000 miles, sit down at your table, and have a line of people waiting to say hello. It blows my mind, and I will tell you, it's humbling and empowering at the same time.
All because of a cartoon dog.
Exactly.
Well, not all because of him, but
and all the rest.
Yes, and the rest.
Told you we'd be back. On with the show.
Did you feel that John and Doc Boy were exceedingly ugly children?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Just to wrap up the flashback here.
No, that's fine. No, and that's the running joke in the comic. You know, I have a feeling that might be why we dislike the Thanksgiving special compared to these two, because the animated specials and the humor behind them are a very different beast from the old comic strip. Mm-hmm. I don't know, they just, maybe because it's animated, and maybe because they have an extended period of time, they can just get away with hitting every note, every beat, just rapid fire with the jokes.
Yeah.
And some of them you don't get as a kid, and some of them you do, but these seem to age better than a lot of those comic jokes do.
Yeah. I mean, there's not a lot that's really timely in these either, whereas I think in a comic strip, I mean, maybe not today in Garfield, but, back then there were a few little timely things here and there in every one of these strips, so they would stand the test of time here. Mm-hmm. One thing that struck me as they pull up to the farmhouse, I don't know if you've noticed, but for people who John is saying, a family who loves Christmas so much, there isn't a single decoration in or on the farmhouse.
Nope.
I'm pretty sure I could look around and find more Christmas stuff in my apartment right now in July as we're recording this than they had in their entire house. on Christmas
just lying
Eve.
around.
It was Christmas Eve when they pull up.
Right?
I don't know. Are they just that kind of, you hear tales of the Germanic type of folk who don't decorate until Christmas Eve, or they go out and get the tree on Christmas Eve? Were you ever like that? Did your family?
Could be. We started that way. My earliest memories of Christmas are the tree gets bought pretty late. I remember decorating it on Christmas Eve.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know when that stopped. I guess when my younger brother and sister got a little older, that the excitement kind of started a lot earlier, and we would start watching the Thanksgiving parade, and of course Santa's at the end, so everything just gets more hyped.
So you hear that, kids? There's proof. Mike can tell you there's proof that having a younger brother or sister ruins everything. I'm the younger
glad
kid,
my kids
so
are
I
dead.
know. My sister knows. I ruin everything.
Yeah.
The wood-burning cats joke.
Grandma, you remember Garfield, don't you?
Well, I'll be. I remember back when all we had were wood-burning cats. What do they think of next?
Bizarre.
One of the greatest jokes of all time, I think, in any special. It's so bizarre. I think that one joke formed my sense of humor more than anything else I'd probably seen on TV up to that moment, where Grandma looks down at Garfield and says, "Oh, in my day, we only had wood-burning cats."
What will they think of next, I think she added.
I'm still not even sure what that means, but it's hilarious and it's so great.
And it pairs so well with Grandma's whole aesthetic, because she's in better shape than anyone I've ever met in my life.
I love that she asked John to punch her in the stomach.
Oh yeah, she's like the Jack LaLanne of the Garfield universe.
Well, that's a good question. If she's the Jack LaLanne, does that mean that is she wearing leg warmers, or is that supposed to be like pants cuffed really high?
I thought the pants were cuffed super high, almost up to her knees. So
yeah, well, that's why I was wondering. Like, it maybe they wanted to leave it ambiguity for ambiguity. Ambiguous.
There it is.
So there, got it. Move on.
All right. I thought it was people shrink as they age.
So she was actually twice as tall and mostly in her shins. And as she aged, she just had to keep rolling up.
That's why we don't see her in John's memories, because she was 7 feet tall.
Right. You thought it was a lamppost in the back? That was just Grandma's legs.
There it is. Well, we immediately shift to Mom and Grandma in the kitchen getting dinner ready, and Grandma almost gets caught adding chili powder to Mom's sausage gravy, which explains, well, we kind of went through the first 5 minutes of this episode.
Right. She won some chili cook-off or gravy cook-off, but they don't. Okay, I know there's animosity there. They set that up very well, but why does Grandma hate Mom so much?
I don't know. But this was the point in the special where I realized, she's John's paternal grandmother.
Well, that's my follow-up question is does she hate John's mom simply because you're supposed to hate your in-laws and you're supposed to, like that old trope, or is there something else? Is she really Mom's mom and we're seeing some mother-daughter kind of ish going on here, because cases could really be made for each, because both John's mom and father call grandma. They never say mom.
Yeah. Well, my parents did that.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's a generational thing. I don't.
Yeah.
But I also get along great with my in-laws. First time I had an extended period of time with my father-in-law, he was binge watching Fraggle Rock, so we got along great. I got off easy.
And then you put chili powder into his beer.
Oh, and that was it.
The other thing that happens during this gravy scene is that Garfield comes in and says, and dips his paw in it and takes a bite of it. And a little comedy beat. He blows some steam out of his ears. But the thing that struck me is, imagine if this were a real cat dipping his paw in your gravy.
Yeah, I have that note down.
And that paw had just been used to bury poop in the litter box.
Oh, dear.
Where those paws have been.
Oh, well, that's cute. A good place to hide it.
It's cute because it's Garfield, but In reality, this is a disgusting family that should all be getting very sick after eating this gravy.
Well, it's a farm.
Yeah.
But
they're probably used to it, right?
Yeah.
Salmonella is everywhere.
It will make them stronger.
Yeah. They
John's a survivor.
with this new trend of getting chickens and raising chickens for the eggs.
Oh, yeah.
There's been a spike in salmonella poisoning with kids because kids think they're pets and kiss them. And then they get infected with salmonella. So, yeah, don't kiss anything is really my rule of thumb.
Okay, well that's good advice, especially for me because I don't live far from. I've passed houses with chickens just running around the front yard. So.
Yeah, don't get out of your car and kiss them.
Yes, sir.
Whatever you do, not even if it says "Kissin' Chicken Ranch." Come on in and kiss our chicken. Don't
right next to the boiled peanut sign.
Boiled peanuts and kissing chickens.
Oh, boy.
Roadside stands that we would like to see.
What I didn't like is this is as much story as we get from the sausage gravy. We never kind of see that wrap up. It's like Chekhov's chili powder failed. And now all I want to do is try something called Chekhov's chili powder.
You'd really think that in the very end, like the last thing as it fades out, it'd just be like
Doc Boy just taking a big, or John probably would be more appropriate, getting like the old red face, fire out of the mouth. What we do get at dinner though is Doc Boy saying grace, which at first he kind of needs a spoon to the head from Grandma to even think of something to say, but then he starts getting into it, and it's a production.
Lord, we just want to tell you how grateful we are for this food and for letting us all be here together on Christmas Eve.
Amen.
And as surely as the waters of the streams and the rivers find the sea, let each of us find happiness and wisdom in this our... Thanks, Lord. Let's eat.
Ever get hit in the head with a spoon by your grandmother? It's not pleasant.
Not by my grandmother.
Played for laughs here. Oh, but by by someone else?
Well, maybe. No, my wife hasn't done that.
Okay, not yet.
That I know of. My brother might have, but I've never heard. It wasn't a prompt to say grace. But did you ever have that family member who kind of goes long on the dinner prayer?
Yes, my grandmother, bless her heart. She would start. Do like the traditional daily grace, say amen, and we'd all kind of mumble amen, and then she would be like, and thank you for, and then like
wow,
and talk about like people that weren't there, and then there'd be like a pause while she thought of some other stuff to say, and then there was that moment where she was just kind of like, she knew this was her moment to keep going, but she didn't really have anything to say, but she didn't want to end it because it was like she was in the spotlight type of thing, and she wasn't going to hand that off anytime soon. So she would just kind of mumble for a little bit, and then we'd all be like, all right, let's wrap this up.
Well, that's almost exactly how it happens with Doc Boy.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I mean, we did not do the traditional Catholic bless us, O Lord. It was always off the cuff, and Dad would get a little flourishy every once in a while, but never to the point of Doc Boy. But I was in a wedding once where a family member on the other side, he was doing the prayer, and one, he sang it. Two, it felt like it went on for it went on for about 5 minutes. It felt like it went on for 5 months. But
yeah, I feel like grace is one of those things that unless you're really good at public speaking, you can't just vamp, because you're always going to come to that, like you said, at a wedding. My uncle got up there and started giving a blessing, and there was just a lot of like blah, 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 and, blah, 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 blah. And we're just like, oh, please, you have to eat. Please, let's just wrap it up.
And keep it short.
Yeah.
Like, it's a 10-second thing.
Right.
Hit all the basics.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't have to be a big production. Yep. No one's scoring you on this. Yeah.
What we need in more families is just a grandma to hit the off switch with the spoon again.
Exactly. Everyone should have a grandma with a spoon.
Absolutely.
Unless in my case, it was grandma who would have to have hit herself with a spoon to stop herself. So
And now I know what to buy my mom for her birthday.
Yeah, get her a wooden spoon and like wood burn engrave it, just like grace-stoppin spoon, and hand it to her.
Perfect.
Like, when you know it's time, just bang the gavel.
You'll know.
And scene. Thank you.
Well done. Well, we get another family trope in which mom makes too much food because there's 7 kinds of everything.
And every time she lists it off, there's some weird pot clanging, pling plong, pling plong, plong, which throws me off every time, and just it really sells the vaudeville-ness of that bit.
That's where I thought it was. I'm like, is that supposed to be a rim shot?
Yeah, totally.
Hey, Mom, pass the potatoes, please.
Scalloped, whipped, fried, baked, or boiled.
Oh, Mom, you always fix too much food.
I know, honey, I know. Now, what would you like?
I can't decide. Just give me a piece of pie.
Apple, peach, pumpkin, blueberry, cherry, or banana cream?
And the thing that bothers me is that given a surfeit of choice, John cannot choose what potato, so he moves on to pie. Too many choices of pie, so he doesn't even choose pie. Did John even eat today? I don't know.
I don't know. He's the skinniest one there.
He is. I always thought it was just because Garfield was stealing his food, but now I think maybe he just doesn't eat at all.
Yeah. Well, my grandmother on my mom's side would always make too much food, but we always had big family gatherings over at her house, so it was a necessity. Here it's just 5 people. And there are more pies than people, so it's a punchline. and a cat and a dog who get theirs, thanks to Grandma sneaking them food. But
I really like the idea of having a meal that's more pies than people, though. When you said it that way, when you put it that way, I was like, that's what I want to be invited to. Call it more pies than people, and I will show up. That's pretty good.
Could have it on Pie Day in March.
My mom is the type that made so much food. And back when we had larger gatherings of family, it was okay, but she still would over make food. But as the number of people who show up to these gatherings dwindled, the meal preparation didn't dwindle at the same ratio. So now she really does make twice as much as she needs to. And every time I'm like, Mom, don't make this amount of food. You spend all day cooking it. We don't eat it. And she's like, yeah, but then you can take it home and have leftovers. I was like, Mom, I can afford my own food.
Every time.
I don't need to take home literally a quart of creamed corn. Like, even if I take that home, how much cream corn do you think my wife and I are going to eat over the next several days? It's just going to go bad.
Well, I have lunch for the next month. Thank you.
Yeah, just cold cream corn out of a quart-sized bucket that they got from leftover Chinese food. It once held wonton soup, but now it just holds a lot of creamed corn.
While I mentioned the dog earlier, we kind of neglected Odie's story arc here. Right before dinner, he comes in from a walk outside of the barn, and he's got this obvious to the viewer, nothing to see here vibe.
Yep, he's up to something. Shit.
We do, so yeah, we kind of see him slink off somewhere else. So we realize something else, but we're not going to find out until a little later. But first, we get to my favorite part of the episode. It's time to trim the tree.
Mm-hmm. So good. But it raises the question, star on last? So, because they make a big to-do about putting the star on last. And I'm with the dad in this one. He's like, why don't we put the star on before we put the tree up? Because I'm going to go up there and I'm going to break my neck putting the star on top of the tree. And they solve it by sending Garfield up, and he's a big hero. But do you put the star on last on your tree?
We put the star on last. The kids like it. Now that I'm an adult with my own house and 15-foot high ceilings. Well, I think we got a real tree once and then quickly decided, nope, not worth the allergies. Mine aren't as bad as far as trees go, but my wife's allergic to every tree, including the pine. So we go fake. And also we're in Florida, so it's dry. We'd have to drive 2 hours just to get to a place that raises the trees.
Right.
So I don't care. We go fake. And the kids love putting up the star last every year.
So how tall is your tree, and how do you put the star on at the end?
It's 7 feet. We either hold them up there or we use a ladder.
Okay.
Mostly because I don't trust them to try and do it themselves. But John entrusts Garfield with the star. And it's a cat and avid tree climber. And he gets up there. but not before looking down and falling out of the tree entirely, bringing down all the hung decorations with it.
If this were real life, halfway up, Garfield would have chewed on one of the wires and electrocuted himself. And that would have been the end of the special. But he pulls it off. He pulls it off.
He does.
And I loved the when he puts it on top, everyone cheers, and he looks down, sees how high he is, and it does the trumpet that we also hear in the Halloween special.
Yes. That, I don't know if that's like a can trumpet that they had, or if it's just they did that same exact note for note little thing again.
And I never recognized that it was the same noise until this viewing. And now I want it as my ringtone. So that every time someone calls me, I think I'm in a precarious situation and I get terrified.
But after he falls out of the tree and the decorations come down crashing with him, that leads to Garfield giving my favorite Garfieldism, my favorite line from any cartoon for children ever.
Whoever invented Christmas trees should be drug out into the street and shot.
Whoever invented Christmas trees should be drug out into the street and shot.
So I guess he means Christians? Like, that's a dicey thing to say. Garfield, why don't you explain yourself? I mean, I know in the moment it's like, ha ha ha, funny, but if you think about it, what is he saying?
They kind of dig drag a guy out into the street.
Garfield, no.
But that's a different holiday.
Wow, this got it's got grim.
Yeah,
Garfield hoping people get murdered on this, the Christmassy of Christmases.
Here's the thing. That's a regular line of his. He said that before. You mentioned Garfield in Paradise earlier. He says whoever said getting there is half the fun should be drug out in the street and shot. There was an episode of Garfield and Friends where Binky the Clown keeps showing up and singing Happy Birthday to the wrong house, and Garfield said people who sing like that should be drug out in the street and shot.
He has a lot of it.
So this is a regular Garfieldism in a cartoon for children, and I am here for it.
Yep. It made all the much better because it's for Christmas.
And now we get a quick bit of Doc Boy and Grandma playing their versions of Oh Christmas Tree on the piano. Doc Boy's off key, Grandma's is the fast rocking number that shakes the entire piano.
Oh, Christmas tree, how lovely are thy branches.
Be-doo, be-doo, be-doo.
But I forgot about this part. And here I find out it was cut from later airings of this.
You know, here's the thing. I did not take any notes about this part because the version on Amazon Prime that I bought didn't have it. And I was like, oh, maybe it's in the Thanksgiving special. I could have sworn it was in this. But so, yeah, it wasn't in the version that I just watched. And that is very disappointing because that is one of my wife and I's favorite callbacks to do from this is anytime someone's at a piano, we'll just like be-doo, 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 be-doo. So great. I love Grandma.
Here, I had forgotten about it and then rediscovered it much later in my young adulthood. But because my copy of the tape, I realized after finding it again, didn't have it. So I discovered after some searching that this was an edit from 1991 where they cut off that. They redrew a couple of scenes here and there. We'll get we'll talk about Dad reading the story later, but after he reads the story, he kind of he looks winded. But then they just kind of looked like him. He looked annoyed because when he looked winded, he had the tongue sticking out and the dizzy spirals in his eyes. So I don't know if they thought that looked a little too much, that kids might be reading into it too much. I'm like, oh, he looks drunk. You can't have him look like that. Not kids, censors.
Sure. Huh. Now I really need to go and look at these changes and see what's changed.
It's not a lot, but that's the big one. The Oh Christmas Tree thing missing is the big one.
Yeah. It's just weird to think that over the 31 years, I've seen different versions of this and maybe have put together another version that even totally doesn't exist. Like in my mind, it has the piano Oh Christmas Tree part. It has different. Do you know what I mean? Like having watched so many different versions over so many different times, that my compilation of what the truth is doesn't even really exist because it's split up over the different versions. I wonder.
I feel like that's happened to me before with other things where they cut out. Well, Muppet Family Christmas, I'm sure that's happened to a lot of people because there are 5 or 6 different versions of that where they had to cut out like one new song every time they aired it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you start to remember something that didn't really happen.
Oh, yeah.
But then one of my favorite bits of this, and I'm pretty sure it's one of yours because right now it's your avatar for Skype. It is the, for lack of a better word, ooh face.
The lighting of the Christmas tree and the big O face.
Nice touch.
Cracks me up. See, I didn't want to call it O face. I wanted to say ooh.
Oh, dude, the ooh face. There it is.
Yeah, that's more family friendly.
Good night, everybody.
Yeah. Adorable and such. It's like it's a split second of animation that has resonated with me forever.
Absolutely. I feel like after watching this and after seeing their faces, I would start saying ooh and try to make that same circular motion with my mouth when I said it. I feel like that brought out a trope in myself that didn't exist before.
Yeah, I wonder how many parents were annoyed in the 80s through 90s over this, sparking that attempt in kids to say ooh. And every time Dad would light the tree, we would be like, ooh. I think my mom and I still do that when we see trees lit. My wife and I do it. It's become a thing. And if you don't do it when you see a lit Christmas tree, you're a monster. A monster who has maybe never seen Garfield, which makes you a double monster.
I mean, that's a fair assessment.
Yeah,
I'm not going to lie. But then in the cut special, we cut from that, we skip "Oh Christmas Tree," and then John asks his mom to play a nice little warm, fuzzy song on the piano that I'm told is called "Christmas, Keep Christmas Here in Your Heart."
Sounds about right.
And in the middle of that, we see Garfield curl up on Grandma's lap while she's just sitting and rocking and looking out the window at the night sky and the snow out there.
Yeah, you get ready for laughs because this is the funniest part of this special. You know what kids love? Maudlin segments about how Grandpa never really expressed his love.
Right.
I mean, at some point, Grandma is saying that, oh, Grandpa, he was a stern man, but kind. And, I think Christmas was his favorite day of the year, Grandma says, to which I had to think, so he never even talked with his wife about things like this? Like, I could understand being gruff to your kids and Merry Christmas, son, Merry Christmas, father. Like, that's all you like clearly you talk to your wife about things, but he never did. Sounds like he was a pretty repressed dude, if all things considered.
That was how men were back then. Because that's how they were raised to be. So I was a product of the times, probably.
I guess. But this whole segment here gets so sad for me. As a kid, I had a lot of fear of death and dying. Mm-hmm. So this really put a tooth drill right into that cavity for me. And I remember just being like, nope, let's move this along. Let's get back to the yucks. I did not like it.
Yeah, well, and of course, they appropriately, they build in a commercial break right at the end of this song.
A Garfield Christmas, sponsored by McDonald's. What you want is what you get at McDonald's today.
Now they got to perk up whatever 80s commercials happen to be on your copy on your 8-hour VHS tape.
What are the commercials on your copy?
I remember there being a spot for Pee-wee's Playhouse. Mm. I remember there being a spot for Toys R Us. Oh, rest in peace. Oh, it's sad again. All right, well, we're back to commercial. We're back.
It's time to think that shows like this could kind of rely upon the commercial break to do some of the heavy lifting here. Like, you end a Christmas special on a sad note, you know that sponsors during a Christmas special are going to have like jingly, jangly, upbeat like toys or sales or things, and it really resets the mood without the writers of the special having to do that work themselves. It's clever.
Yeah, and everything back then had a nice little jingly song to it too.
Yeah.
Not so much these days, but everything back then had its own song. M&M's had their own song.
M&M's, yeah, exactly. You know?
And a lot of them had like special Christmas time songs.
Like, hey, McDonald's in your stocking.
Oh, yeah. Well, the McDonald's had its own thing. That's its own episode of this. So that's coming up, kids.
Coming soon.
Yes.
What do we come back to from that break?
We come back to Dad reading Binky the Clown Who Saved Christmas.
Yeah. He starts the book in the middle, so either this is a collection of stories or he's skipping ahead a lot.
I didn't notice that. Oh, he opens the book from the middle, because that's what you do when you animate. It's like, I'm not animating this book to start at the beginning. That's too hard.
The book is really fat, too, so it must be a very long story as well.
Could be.
How long do you think the story is?
Oh, gee,
I mean, is it supposed to be like the night before Christmas?
They don't show you the passage of time. You just cut right to the end, but it could very well be like a 30-minute story.
I mean, my question is like, is it more like the night before Christmas, or is it more like a Christmas Carol? You know, one that'll take you a couple hours to read, even an abridged version, but one that takes you like 10 minutes to get through.
Yeah, somewhere in the middle, I think. A little longer than 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. Nothing like a Christmas Carol, but
like How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
There you go. That might be the perfect length, except no rhyming.
Yeah, right.
So it feels a little longer.
Although we can't really know if it rhymes or not, because it does kind of fade out very quickly after the beginning, and then fades back in, and it's all said and done.
It's just really, really, really long couplets.
Right. It's iambic pentameter, but a lot more iambic. I don't know. I don't know anything about poetry.
Yeah. Well, and okay, I've become the dad who does the silly voices when I read stories to the kids, but...
Hey, kids! Oh, no, Dad! Read it with more emotion!
Yeah, and why don't you say it like Binky says it?
Every time Binky saw children, he would say, "Hey, kids!"
No way could I make it through a whole story of, "Hey, kids!"
That was pretty good. And it sounds like you could make it through a whole story of Hey Kids with just that delivery.
I don't know. Binky's voice is very grovelly like that. So, I don't know if I can handle that for an entire story of him talking. So he's going to have to turn into a mime very quickly.
Maybe he's only like that when he's doing the Hey Kids thing, like kind of like a real crusty type of clown where, you know, he does the hey, but then the rest of the time it's just like, I got to go here.
They are very similar. Yeah. Krusty and Binky, now that I think about it. Binky predates Krusty, but not by too much.
Yeah.
And that's a Jim Davis special. Everything about Garfield is satire or something. Binky is every TV clown ever.
Yeah. Yeah, every TV clown that no kid ever really wanted to watch.
Right.
Seriously.
But what I want to know, because we never get to hear the full story, how does Binky save Christmas?
Well, I mean, I think it comes down to, like, how involved is this? Is this... I'll answer. I was vamping there just to give myself some time to think.
Understood.
I think it's kind of... I want it to be along the lines of like How the Grinch Stole Christmas, where Binky actually is the cause of Christmas needing to be saved. So I think Binky accidentally murders Santa. Garfield said, "I wish whoever invented Santa gets drug out into the street shot." Binky overheard him. He's very susceptible. Did so only to realize there's a lot of gifts that need to be delivered. Oh crap, this is the real Santa, and now I need to save Christmas. Yeah, I think that's so he has to hotwire a car.
No wonder the guys like this so much.
Exactly. See, it's a story for 20 to 30-year-olds.
There we go. See, it's not an annual Christmas tradition. It was just an adult annual Christmas tradition.
It started very recently.
That's why Mom was so happy. He's like, finally, you're of age. We can read Binky the Clown Who Saved Christmas. Welcome aboard.
With all the voices and lewd gestures. What do you think Binky Saves Christmas would be about?
I don't know if I can top that. I was thinking...
I think you can, by being anything but a violent tale of murdering Santa.
I thought back to how in Elf, how Buddy described his journey to New York, how he traveled through the candy cane forest, and a lot of that sort of... the book was about the journey, not the destination.
Okay.
But
getting there to save Christmas.
Could be.
By him just being there.
Yes.
And that's pretty good. He saved Christmas. He's like, I'm here. Christmas is saved. And everyone's like, it wasn't ruined without you. He's like, nope, saved it. All me. Bow down.
Binky seems like the type who would think that, too.
Yeah, I think so.
It's like, I'm here and Christmas is saved.
It's very overbearing.
Well, speaking of destinations, it's time for bed for the Arbuckle boys. But we later see John and Doc Boy go into their dad's room like, Dad, is it Christmas yet? Can we wake up yet? And this, even as a little kid, is when I first realized, after watching so many Garfield specials, John's kind of an awkward man-child. Before, he always seemed like a normal, boring grown-up who owned some pets, but here you see the magic and excitement of Christmas take hold of John, like I never really saw it do to an adult at that time. Yeah, my parents liked Christmas, but they never got his can't contain himself John at 1:30 in the morning. My memories of Dad on Christmas morning is just, well, he always had the camera, so he was always just taking the videos. So maybe that's it.
Yeah, we would always have to wait for my dad as well. He would be the last one up, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I think we were, after this special aired, I believe we were forbidden to do any such BS to our parents to wake them up. Like, we knew from an early age that you do not go and ask them to wake up. You go downstairs and wait for them to wake up. And it's weird. I don't feel like they ever yelled at us for trying to wake them up. It was more like me and my sister would see what we could get away with before my parents were up. You know, it's like, oh, wake up, and be like, we'd wake each other up and then sneak downstairs and like look through our stocking and just like look at everything for a bit. And then in years later, my sister would just be like, all right, I'm going back to bed. Wake me when they get up. And I would just sit there staring at the tree for like 4 hours. But yeah, no, we never tried to do the, wake up thing. Do your kids try and do that to you? Did you do that to your dad? Is it a tradition you've passed along?
I remember also liking to sleep in on Christmas morning. I guess my attitude was, it'll still be there. But
wow.
Perhaps an early Christmas morning, I might have woken up early. But
wow.
I was not a morning person growing up.
Me neither. But on Christmas morning, well into college, when I was home from college, I would wake up before sunrise and go downstairs and put Charlie Brown Christmas CD on and make myself hot cocoa and watch the sun come up. And just sit there with the tree on and just looking around. And it's just something really nice for me to do. Outside of 1 year where I slept in pretty late and I woke up and I came downstairs and the entire family had come over and opened all of their gifts. And I was like, what? And they were like, oh, we figured you wanted to sleep. Here, open your gifts. It was so weird. So weird. It was so unlike me. It was so unlike them. It was It was a very strange year.
You got an extra unexpected gift of more sleep.
Yeah.
And you didn't know if you really wanted it.
Yeah, because but then when you wake up and like the whole family's there, now it's like, oh, I'm going to have to open my gifts in front of my sister and her boyfriend, my parents and my grandparents, and like my mom's friend who came over for dessert. Like, I don't want to do this, My parents always buy too many gifts, and so I'm sitting there like, let's move this along, please. What I'm saying is Christmas is the worst. No, I'm
All right. Well, let's get back in a better giving mood. We see Odie wake up in the middle of the night and sneak off. Yep. And Garfield wakes up just in time to see where he's going. He's off to the barn, where we see Odie making something out of some spare parts, like a piece of wood, some wire, a little hand rake, and a plunger handle.
Really MacGyvering it.
Really. And we find out Christmas morning that Odie has been building Garfield a homemade back scratcher.
Mm-hmm.
And I want one.
I will say that when you see Odie scratching himself on it, and the look of absolute joy on his face as he's going like, ooh.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I want to be scratched like that and enjoy it just like
It's that same ooh as you get when the Christmas lights go on. It's the same exact.
You got the circular
expression.
lips. Yeah, I think I've lived my life. Maybe this is what heroin addicts try to chase their whole life. Like you try and chase that like ooh feeling. You know, you see it in a Garfield special once when you're 9, and then you just spend the rest of your life trying to chase that same ooh.
Oh, man.
I get it now.
I gotta get back there.
I gotta, man. So we passed over while Garfield is following Odie and he's putting this thing together. Lou Rawls' song starts up. The song, You Can Never Find an Elf When You Need One, that has the inexplicable line, When elves and other weirdos. When elves and other weirdos.
Ooh.
Weirdos?
Oh.
What other Christmas weirdos are there?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah, Grinch was the one that came to mind, but nothing that, no, I don't think Santa employed any other weirdos.
Snowmen? Freaky snowmen? I don't know.
Could be. Yeah, that one talking snowman that narrates Rudolph that's supposed to be Burl Ives, but is not at all Burl Ives.
Pretty weird.
More like Colonel Sanders.
Colonel Ives.
Colonel Ives.
Yep. So Odie gets nothing from Garfield. So thanks a bunch, Odes.
He gets a thanks. Garfield's very touched, but Odie gets nothing.
Yeah.
Odie also doesn't care.
I guess.
Because he's good with it, but still. No, Garfield gives the one gift he finds, because while he's out in the barn, he falls off a stack of boxes, and inside one of them that knocks him on the head is a stack of old letters.
Right. What should have been in there was a stack of shredded paper and mouse poop, because that's what happens to paper when it's stored in a barn. I don't know if you know this.
I don't.
But it is. Mice get into it and make it their home and where babies live. But these letters were not chewed to death, and Garfield delivers them to Grandma.
For 5 decades they were in that barn and somehow miraculously stayed in readable condition.
Oh, they're covered in black mold, and Grandma, with her lowered immune system, is going to die shortly from being exposed to it. But that's for the next special, Garfield Christmas Special 2.
Garfield minus Grandma.
So these are love letters, right, from her old repressed husband, in which we now find out that he is quite a romantic, sending letters like, if the ocean were ink and the sky my parchment, there wouldn't be enough room or time to tell you how much I love you. And then she kind of giggles, and Mom Arbuckle says, oh, what else? And Grandma then insinuates that the letters contain explicit sexual material not suitable to talk about with family.
It is inappropriate for a lady to talk about her romances, my dear.
In a children's story. I mean,
she tries to say it in just a stern, it's just like, none of your business, in her gruff grandma way. But you know what she was implying.
Right? Okay. Yeah.
To her credit, have you ever written or spoken anything like that to or about your wife?
I will endeavor to now. Knowing that a cartoon can do it, I think I can do it. No, I think the most romantic thing I've ever written to my wife is like when I'm going away on a business trip and she leaves for work before I do, I'll leave a note on the pillow that just says, I love you, see you soon, smooch. Like, that's it.
Pretty much.
Like, that's the extent of my romanticized love letters. I will have to do better. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat pretty much. I think the most romantic thing I ever told my wife, the insides of both of our wedding bands say, it's an ellipsis, and I love you, which is a joke from the original book version of The Princess Bride, where that's every other sentence that Wesley writes to Buttercup. But But the cute thing about that was that we had each other's engraved in secret, and they ended up being the exact same thing.
Aw, that's adorable.
So there's this moment during our wedding, which we don't have videotaped, but I'm sure someone did. One of relative had a camcorder that they'll catch us just cracking up in the middle when we realize what's in yours.
Wow, that's great. Did you take it to the same engraver? So was this engraver like...
We did, so...
It would be really funny if you blew the surprise.
In hindsight, we realized that, okay, they were laughing at us because they thought we were cute.
Right.
But...
That would be great, though, if they blew the surprise, like, your wife brought the ring in, be like, and I wanted to say, it's like, oh, your husband got the same thing. Weird. Uh-oh.
Nah, they're all pros at this, but if I was running a jewelry shop, I might have spilled the beans.
Oh, yeah,
but
I can't keep it.
To their credit, they did a wonderful job keeping it secret.
Yeah. Just as Grandma keeps a secret all that sexual, explicit material that are in those letters.
We've clearly been schooled by old Grandpa Arbuckle, but...
Yeah.
Well, we wrap up with Garfield telling the family he has something to say, and he goes on with...
Christmas. It's not the giving. It's not the getting. It's the loving. There, I said it.
Thanks for cat-splaining Christmas, Garfield.
Well, more importantly, here's where it gets muddy over whether the humans can actually hear him or if he's just talking to us, the viewer.
Yeah.
Or if he just thinks they can hear him. I don't know.
Yeah. I think they were all poisoned by the black mold in the letters that Garfield brought in, and they're having a shared hallucination, and they think he's talking. So
could be.
Oh.
It's the mold in the letters. It's the cat hair in the chili.
They are all kinds of poisoned. The Arbuckles are not getting out of Christmas alive this year.
Yes. Next here, don't miss Garfield minus everyone. Well, Jeff.
Yeah.
If people want to...
Oh, wait, hang on. I should have just gone...
Do you have a boing fork?
Yeah, I got a jaw harp, and I'm just trying to learn how to use it, but it's just hitting my teeth and hurting a lot. Can you hear it? Is it boinging?
Oh, I can hear it.
Good old-fashioned Christmas. Yeah, ow, that hurts. Just don't try that at home. So there you go. That was the last gag I had.
I'm glad you called it a jaw harp and not its proper name, so thank you for that.
Yeah, it's life has to evolve.
Right. I called it a boing fork.
I like
because that's what I called. That's what I originally named it when the first time I saw one of those was in You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, because Snoopy has one on the bus, and that's 5 minutes of that movie. Everything in that movie, because I think it was either like very end of the 60s or early 70s where everything just took forever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know what kids like? Long sequences. Keep it going. I like calling it the boing fork because that distances it even farther from the original name. Like you say jaw harp and you're like, wait, what did you say? But you call it a boing fork. Boom. No one needs to think about what it used to be.
Nope. Well, Jeff, if people want to spike your chili powder with sausage gravy, where are all the places they can find you on the internet?
Oh, probably the best place is on Twitter. If you go to @SummerJam, SOMMERJAM, I tweet about things that I'm doing there, including several other podcasts that I appear on, including Rabbit Hole, and Talkin' Chop, where Talkin' Chop we talk about American Chopper, the old TV show. For some reason, we're watching it from the beginning and talking about it. Me and my friend Jonathan having a hoot talking about that. And Rabbit Hole, we talk about Wikipedia pages. It's a good time. It's enjoyable by everyone. But when you want to, I always tweet about it when it happens. So if you just follow me on Twitter, you'll get everything.
Excellent. Jeff, thanks for taking this drive out to the farm with me.
Mike, thank you for inviting me out to the farm, rummaging through the old boxes in your barn and getting black mold poisoning.
Yes. Well, if we survive, we'll have to do this again.
We definitely will.
Yes. The Advent Calendar House is part of the Christmas Podcast Network. To find more shows like this one, visit ChristmasPodcastNetwork.com.
Hi everyone, Dwayne Bailey here from the Tinsel Tunes podcast. Did you know Silent Night is the most recorded holiday song of all time? Over 137,000 times and counting. Come join us each month as I dive into Christmas music and reveal lots of interesting facts like that. Also, learn about your old favourites, as well as getting a heads up for the new music each season. We're on all the podcast networks like iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Podcasts. Check out our website, tinseltunes.com, for all the links as well as our socials. I look forward to seeing you all soon.
To learn more about the celebration of Christmas, the Library of Congress suggests these books: Celebrating Christmas Around the World by Herbert H. Wernicke, The Christmas Tree Book by Philip V. Snyder, and Guinness Book of Christmas, edited by Tom Hartman. These and many other informative books are waiting for you in your local library and bookstore. Visit them. They'll be happy to help you read more about it.
Next, it's musical magic with those California raisins, caroling camels, waltzing walruses, and Herb and Rex on the all-new Claymation Christmas Celebration.